Engineering, respond. Eleanor called again, her voice sharp with worry. Smoke filled the bridge as crew members worked to put out small fires. The main lights flickered, then emergency lighting bathed everything in a dim red glow. I'm going down there, Alan said, moving toward the door. I'm coming too, Lyra insisted, following him. They rushed through damaged corridors, passing crew members helping the injured. When they reached engineering, they found chaos. Equipment sparked and smoke hung in the air. Several crew members lay on the floor while others treated their wounds. Ben, Ellen called, searching the room. Where's Chief Engineer Collins? A junior engineer pointed to a corner where Dr. Reeves knelt beside a still form on the floor. Ellen and Lyra hurried over. Ben lay unconscious, a deep gash across his forehead. His right arm was badly burned. He was at the main console when the last blast hit, Dr. Reeves explained, working quickly to treat his wounds. He pushed two others out of the way before the panel exploded. Lyra stared at Ben in shock. He saved them. That's what humans do, Alan said simply. Dr. Reeves looked up at them. I need to get him to medical. Help me move him. Together, they carefully lifted Ben onto a stretcher. As they carried him toward the door, the ship rocked again. They're still following us, Alan said grimly. Back on the bridge, Captain Eleanor and her crew worked desperately to keep the damaged ship running. Status report, she demanded. Engines at 30% capacity, Ryan reported. We're losing speed. The Vexillian ship will catch us in less than 10 minutes. Weapons are offline, Maria added. Shields at 15%. Eleanor's face was tight with determination. Options. Jack shook his head. At this rate, we've got none, Captain. The bridge doors opened. Lyra entered alone, her expression resolute. I have a solution, she announced. But you won't like it. Eleanor turned to her. I'm listening. I need to take a shuttle, Lyra said. If I surrender myself to Zrath, he might spare your ship. Absolutely not, Eleanor replied immediately. It's the only way, Lyra insisted. This is my fault. I won't let your crew die because of me. Jack stepped forward. How do we know this Elder's Wrath will keep his word? We don't, Lyra admitted, but it's your only chance. Eleanor studied her for a long moment. Why would you do this for us? We're nothing to you. Lyra looked around the bridge at the human faces watching her. When I was taught about humans, I was told you were monsters. Violent. Selfish. Dangerous. She took a deep breath. But you saved me when my own people abandoned me. You healed me. You treated me with respect. Ben is hurt because he saved others. Her voice grew stronger. If anyone are monsters in this story, it's not you. A beeping from Kyle's console interrupted them. Captain, he said, sounding confused. I'm receiving a transmission from the Vexillian ship. They want to talk. Put it on screen, Eleanor ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the stern Vexillian male with deep blue skin and 4 cold eyes. I am Elder's Wrath, he announced, commander of the righteous purge. You have something that belongs to us. Lyra is a person, not a thing, Eleanor replied evenly, and she is under my protection. Zrath's upper eyes narrowed. You don't understand what she is. Her blood is tainted. She carries human DNA. A shocked silence fell over the bridge. Everyone turned to look at Lyra, who seemed equally stunned. What? She whispered. Our genetic scans found human markers in your blood. Zrath continued coldly. From generations ago, when humans first explored our sector, your ancestors were contaminated. You are part human, Lyra. You are the very monster you were taught to fear. Lyra staggered backward, her world spinning. Alan, who had just returned to the bridge, steadied her. Is this true? She asked Zrath. Why else would we cast you out? He replied. Now I will give these humans one chance. Return the abomination to us, and we may let you live. Before Eleanor could respond, the ship suddenly lurched forward, gaining speed. Engineering, respond. Eleanor called again, her voice sharp with worry. Smoke filled the bridge as crew members worked to put out small fires. The main lights flickered, then emergency lighting bathed everything in a dim red glow. "I'm going down there," Alan said, moving toward the door. "I'm coming too," Lyra insisted, following him. They rushed through damaged corridors, passing crew members helping the injured. When they reached engineering, they found chaos. Equipment sparked and smoke hung in the air. Several crew members lay on the floor while others treated their wounds. "Ben," Alan called, searching the room. "Where's Chief Engineer Collins?" A junior engineer pointed to a corner where Dr. Reeves knelt beside a still form on the floor. Alan and Lyra hurried over. Ben lay unconscious, a deep gash across his forehead. His right arm was badly burned. "He was at the main console when the last blast hit," Dr. Reeves explained, working quickly to treat his wounds. He pushed two others out of the way before the panel exploded. Lyra stared at Ben in shock. "He saved them." "That's what humans do," Alan said simply. Dr. Reeves looked up at them. "I need to get him to medical. Help me move him." Together, they carefully lifted Ben onto a stretcher. As they carried him toward the door, the ship rocked again. "They're still following us," Alan said grimly. Back on the bridge, Captain Eleanor and her crew worked desperately to keep the damaged ship running. "Status report," she demanded. "Engines at 30% capacity," Ryan reported. "We're losing speed. The Vexillian ship will catch us in less than 10 minutes. Weapons are offline," Maria added. "Shields at 15%. Eleanor's face was tight with determination. "Options," Jack shook his head. "At this rate, we've got none, Captain." The bridge doors opened. Lyra entered alone, her expression resolute. "I have a solution," she announced, "but you won't like it." Eleanor turned to her. "I'm listening." "I need to take a shuttle," Lyra said. "If I surrender myself to Zrath, he might spare your ship." "Absolutely not," Eleanor replied immediately. "It's the only way," Lyra insisted. "This is my fault. I won't let your crew die because of me." Jack stepped forward. "How do we know this Elder Zrath will keep his word?" "We don't," Lyra admitted, "but it's your only chance." Eleanor studied her for a long moment. "Why would you do this for us? We're nothing to you." Lyra looked around the bridge at the human faces watching her. "When I was taught about humans, I was told you were monsters. Violent, selfish, dangerous." She took a deep breath. "But you saved me when my own people abandoned me. You healed me. You treated me with respect. Ben is hurt because he saved others." Her voice grew stronger. "If anyone are monsters in this story, it's not you." A beeping from Kyle's console interrupted them. "Captain," he said, sounding confused, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Vexillian ship. They want to talk." "Put it on screen," Eleanor ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing a stern Vexillian male with deep blue skin and 4 cold eyes. "I am Elder Zrath," he announced, "Commander of the Righteous Purge. You have something that belongs to us." "Lyra is a person, not a thing," Eleanor replied evenly. "And she is under my protection." Zrath's upper eyes narrowed. "You don't understand what she is. Her blood is tainted. She carries human DNA." A shocked silence fell over the bridge. Everyone turned to look at Lyra, who seemed equally stunned. "What?" she whispered. "Our genetic scans found human markers in your blood," Zrath continued coldly. "From generations ago, when humans first explored our sector, your ancestors were contaminated. You are part human, Lyra. You are the very monster you were taught to fear." Lyra staggered backward, her world spinning. Alan, who had just returned to the bridge, steadied her. "Is this true?" she asked Zrath. "Why else would we cast you out?" he replied. "Now I will give these humans one chance. Return the abomination to us, and we may let you live." Before Eleanor could respond, The ship suddenly lurched forward, gaining speed. Captain Eleanor stood on the bridge, her face grim as she studied the main view screen. The Vexillian warship was visible now, a large vessel with sharp, angular lines and a dark metal hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Time to intercept," she asked. 15 minutes, Captain, Ryan replied from the navigation station. "They're moving fast." Jack Wilson stood beside her, arms crossed. "They've made no attempt to communicate. That's not a good sign." "Keep trying, Kyle," Eleanor ordered. "All frequencies, all known Vexillian protocols." Kyle nodded, fingers working rapidly over his communication panel. "Still no response, Captain." The bridge doors opened, and Alan rushed in with Lyra following close behind. "Sir, I know civilians aren't allowed on the bridge during alert, but—" Alan began. "It's all right," Eleanor interrupted. "I think we need her input right now." She turned to Lyra. "That's a Vexillian warship, correct?" Lyra stepped forward, staring at the screen. "Yes. The Righteous Purge. It belongs to Elder Zrath's personal fleet." "They're coming for you," Jack said. It wasn't a question. "Not just for me," Lyra replied. "For all of you now." She turned to face the captain. "You have to run. Now. That ship outguns you 10-1. Eleanor didn't move. "This is an exploration vessel, not a warship. Running is our only real option. But I need to understand what we're dealing with first." She gestured to a seat. "Tell us everything, Lyra." Lyra sat, hands trembling slightly. The Righteous Purge is a cleansing vessel. It's designed to eliminate contamination. "Contamination meaning you?" Jack asked. "And now you," Lyra confirmed. "By rescuing me, by treating me, by even talking to me, you've all become contaminated in their eyes." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. "Captain," Security Chief Maria called from her station. "They're charging weapons." "Shields up," Eleanor ordered. "Ryan, plot an escape course. Maximum speed." "They're faster than us," Lyra said. "And their weapons will cut through your shields." Eleanor looked at her steadily. "Then what do you suggest?" Before Lyra could answer, the ship rocked violently. Red warning lights flashed throughout the bridge. "Direct hit to our port side." Ben's voice came over the comm system from engineering. "Shields holding at 60%, but I don't know for how long." "Return fire," Jack suggested. Eleanor shook her head. "We barely scratched their hull." Lyra stood suddenly. "I can help. The Righteous Purge has a weakness." All eyes turned to her. "Their targeting systems rely on heat signatures. If you can mask your engine output or create multiple false signatures, you might confuse them long enough to escape." "Can we do that, Ben?" Eleanor asked over the comm. "Maybe," came the reply. "If I reroute power from the auxiliary systems and create a burst pattern in the exhaust ports." "It's risky, Captain." "Do it," Eleanor ordered. Another blast rocked the ship, throwing Lyra against a console. Alan caught her before she fell. "Shields at 40%, Maria reported. Lyra pushed away from Alan. "I need to access your communication system. I know Zrath's override codes. I might be able to disrupt their weapons for a short time." Kyle moved aside, giving her access to his station. Lyra's fingers flew over the unfamiliar controls as she worked to send a specialized signal to the Vexillian ship. The bridge crew watched in tense silence. Another hit shook the ship. 30 seconds until Ben's modifications are ready," Jack announced. Suddenly, the attacking ship's weapons stopped firing. "It worked," Lyra exclaimed. "But it won't last long. Zrath will realize what happened and override my commands." "That's all the time we need," Eleanor said. "Ben, now." The Horizon's engines flared brilliantly, creating multiple energy signatures that spread out in different directions. At the same time, the ship itself surged forward, accelerating away from the confused Vexillian vessel. "They're firing again," Maria reported. "But they're missing us." For a moment, Victory seemed within reach. Then a final, desperate shot from the righteous purge struck the Horizon's engine section. The ship lurched violently. Sparks flew from consoles across the bridge. Emergency alarms wailed. "Engineering report," Eleanor called. There was no answer. A week passed aboard the Horizon. Lyra grew stronger each day. Alan visited regularly, answering her questions about the ship and crew. Dr. Reeves monitored her health and gradually reduced her medications. Today was different. For the first time, Lyra would leave the medical bay. "Are you ready?" Alan asked, standing by her bed. He held a folded set of clothes in his hands. "I brought you something more comfortable to wear than a medical gown." Lyra took the clothes cautiously. They were simple, blue pants and a gray shirt with the Earth Alliance symbol on the sleeve. "The crew knows you'll be walking around today," Alan explained while Lyra changed behind a privacy screen. "Everyone has been briefed on Vexillian customs, at least what little we know." When Lyra emerged wearing the human clothes, Alan smiled. "They fit. I wasn't sure they would." They walked slowly through the corridors. Lyra noticed how crew members nodded politely as they passed, but gave her space. No one stared or pointed. "This is the main deck," Alan explained. "Crew quarters, recreation areas, and the mess hall are here." Lyra stopped at a large window, staring out at the stars. "Where are we going?" "We've resumed our original mission, charting this sector. Captain Wright thought it best to keep moving rather than stay in one place." Lyra understood what remained unsaid. They were moving to avoid any Vexillian ships that might come looking for her. They entered a large room where crew members sat at tables, eating and talking. A few looked up when they entered. One waved Alan over. "That's Kyle Mendez, our communications officer," Alan said. "He was the one who picked up your distress signal. Would you like to meet him?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. Kyle stood as they approached his table. "Welcome, Lyra. It's good to see you up and about." He gestured to the empty chairs. "Please, join me." They sat. A crew member brought trays of food. Lyra stared at her plate uncertainly. "It's safe for you to eat," Alan assured her. "We checked with your biology." Lyra took a small bite. The flavor was strange, but not unpleasant. "I've been studying your pod's communication system," Kyle said. "Very advanced, but I noticed something unusual." He glanced at Alan, who nodded encouragingly. "The distress beacon was damaged," Kyle continued. "Not by accident or system failure. Someone intentionally sabotaged it to make it weaker. It's a miracle we detected it at all." Lyra set down her fork. "Elder's wrath," she said quietly. "He wanted to be sure I died out there." "Who is Elder's wrath?" Alan asked. Lyra took a deep breath. "A member of the Vexillian High Council. He ordered my execution because I suggested opening diplomatic channels with humans." Kyle looked shocked. "They tried to kill you for that?" "Not just that," Lyra said. "They discovered something in my genetic scan. Impurities, they called it. My bloodline wasn't pure Vexillian." Before they could discuss further, an alarm sounded. Red lights flashed in the corridors. "All senior staff to the bridge," came Captain Eleanor's voice over the communication system. Kyle stood immediately. "I have to go." "What's happening?" Lyra asked, heart racing. "I don't know," Alan said, "but we should return to medical bay." As they hurried through the corridors, they passed Ben Collins running toward the engine room. "Ellen," Ben called out, "get Lyra somewhere safe. We've detected a Vexillian warship approaching at high speed." Lyra froze. "A warship? Here?" Alan took her arm gently. "Come on. We need to move." "You don't understand," Lyra said, her voice shaking. "If they've sent a warship, they're not just looking for me anymore. They'll attack your ship. They'll kill everyone on board." Alan's face paled. "Why would they do that?" "Because you helped me," Lyra whispered. "In their eyes, that makes all of you contaminated. and contamination must be eliminated. The alarm continued to wail as they rushed through the now crowded corridors. The hunt had begun. 3 days passed before Lyra fully woke again. She opened her eyes to find herself in a small room with soft lighting. She lay on a bed that adjusted to her body shape. Medical devices beeped quietly nearby. A clear tube ran from a bag of blue liquid into her arm. She tried to sit up but felt too weak. "Take it slow," said a friendly voice. Dr. Reeves entered the room, carrying a small device. "You've been unconscious for quite a while." Lyra tensed. The human doctor approached, but didn't touch her. "Where am I?" Lyra asked, though she already knew. "You're aboard the U.S. Horizon, an Earth Alliance exploration vessel. I'm the chief medical officer. How are you feeling?" Lyra considered the question. She felt alive, which was more than she had expected. "Better," she admitted. "Did you treat me?" Dr. Reeves nodded. "You had severe oxygen deprivation and dehydration. Your body temperature was dangerously low. We had to guess at some of your treatment, but your physiology is similar enough to ours to work with." Lyra looked at the blue liquid in the tube. "What is that?" "A nutrient mix adjusted for your biology. One of our crew members, Alan Parker, is a xenobiologist. He helped create it based on samples of your blood." Lyra pulled back, horrified. "You took my blood while I was unconscious." Dr. Reeves looked troubled. "Only a small sample for medical purposes. We needed to help you recover." She paused. "Is that not permitted in your culture?" Before Lyra could answer, the door opened. Captain Eleanor Wright entered, followed by a tall man with kind eyes who carried several items. "Good to see you awake," Eleanor said, stopping at a respectful distance. "I'm Captain Wright. This is Alan Parker, our xenobiologist." Alan smiled warmly. "Hello, Lyra. I hope you're feeling better." Lyra stared at them with suspicion. "How do you know my name?" "You told us when we found you," Eleanor explained. "You said you were a junior diplomatic envoy of the Vexillian Conclave. We've been wondering why a diplomat was alone in an escape pod." Lyra looked away. "I was abandoned." A silence filled the room. "By your own people?" Alan asked gently. Lyra nodded once, still not meeting their eyes. Eleanor and the doctor exchanged glances. "When you're ready, we'd like to know more," the captain said. "But for now, rest and recover. You're safe here." Ellen stepped forward, placing several items on a small table near the bed. "I brought these from your pod. We thought you might want them." Lyra looked at the items, her personal data device, a small metal pendant with Vexillian symbols, and her diplomatic identification chip. She hadn't expected to see them again. "You didn't take them?" she asked, confused. Alan shook his head. "They're your belongings. Why would we take them?" Lyra didn't answer. Everything she knew about humans said they were greedy, taking whatever they wanted. Yet here they were, returning her possessions. "I also fixed your translator," Alan continued, pointing to a small device among her things. "It was damaged, but I managed to repair it. I've been studying Vexillian language patterns. Fascinating structure." "Why?" Lyra asked. "Why help me? Why fix my things? What do you want from me?" The three humans looked surprised at her questions. "You needed help," Dr. Reeves said simply. "That's enough reason." "We don't want anything from you," Eleanor added. "When you're recovered, we can discuss options for getting you home, if that's what you want." Home. The word hit Lyra hard. She had no home to return to. The Conclave had condemned her to death. "I can't go back," she whispered. Alan moved closer, his expression gentle. "Then you can stay with us until we figure something out. No one on this ship will harm you, Lyra." Lyra studied their faces, looking for signs of deception. She found none. For the first time since her ordeal began, she felt something unexpected. Hope. "Rest now," Dr. Reeves said, adjusting the medical equipment. "Tomorrow, if you feel up to it, maybe Alan can show you around the ship." As they left, Lyra stared at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. The monsters from her people's warnings weren't acting like monsters at all. Lyra woke to the strange sensation of movement. Her pod was shaking. Through the viewport, she saw stars shifting position. A bright light shined from somewhere outside, almost blinding her. Something had captured her pod. Terror shot through her body. Space pirates. Scavengers. Worse. Lyra's people told stories of dark things that hunted in empty space, things that ate minds and souls. She pressed herself against the back wall of the pod, as far from the door as possible. The pod stopped moving. Lyra heard metallic sounds, clamps locking onto the outside of her small vessel. Then came a hissing noise. Someone was forcing the airlock to open. Lyra looked for a weapon, but found nothing. She was a diplomat, not a fighter. Still, she raised her fists. If death was coming, she would face it standing. The pod door slid open with a loud screech. Bright light poured in. Lyra squinted, making out three shapes standing in the doorway. As her eyes adjusted, she saw what they were. Humans. They looked just like the images in Vexillian warning manuals. Flat faces with small eyes. No scales, just bare skin in various shades of tan and brown. Two of them wore blue uniforms, while one wore white. "Hello," said the one in white, a female by the sound of her voice. She held up empty hands, showing she carried no weapons. "My name is Dr. Samantha Reeves. You're safe now." Lyra understood the words through her translator implant, but couldn't believe what was happening. Humans had found her. The monsters had her. "Stay back," Lyra said, her voice weak from lack of water. "Don't touch me." The human doctor stopped moving forward. "You need medical help. Your oxygen levels were dangerously low. Please, let us help you." One of the blue-uniformed humans, a male with dark skin, spoke into a small device. "Captain, she's alive and conscious. Appears to understand us." Lyra felt dizzy. The air in the human ship seemed too rich, too heavy. She struggled to stay upright. "I am Lyra, junior diplomatic envoy of the Vexillian Conclave," she managed to say. "It was proper protocol when captured. State your name and rank, nothing more." The doctor smiled. "It's nice to meet you, Lyra. We received your distress signal. Will you let us take you to our medical bay? You appear dehydrated and your breathing is labored." Lyra's mind raced. Everything she knew about humans said they were violent, cunning creatures who would dissect alien species for scientific knowledge. Yet these three stood calmly, making no aggressive moves. The male with lighter skin spoke. "I'm Engineer Ben Collins. This is Security Officer Maria Garcia. We've secured your pod in our shuttle bay. Your systems were failing." Lyra took a small step forward, then collapsed. Her legs simply gave out. Before she hit the floor, the security officer caught her with surprising gentleness. "I've got you," Maria said. "Dr. Reeves, she's burning up." "Likely hypoxia and dehydration," the doctor said, running a small device over Lyra's body. "We need to get her to medical now." As they carried her from the pod, Lyra fought to stay conscious. The human ship looked nothing like she expected. No blood-stained walls, no cages full of captive aliens. Instead, it was clean, brightly lit, with smooth corridors and soft humming sounds. Where are you taking me?" she asked weakly. "To get you better," Ben said, his voice kind. "Our captain wants to speak with you when you're recovered." Lyra wanted to resist, to fight, but her body betrayed her. The stress, oxygen deprivation, and dehydration had taken their toll. As darkness claimed her, one confusing thought circled in her mind. The monsters had saved her life. In Medical Bay, Dr. Reeves worked quickly, attaching monitors to Lyra's blue-tinged skin. "She's stabilizing," she reported to Captain Eleanor, who stood watching from the doorway. "But I've never treated a Vexillian before. This will be challenging." Eleanor nodded. "Do your best, Doctor. Our guest has been through a lot, and I have many questions about why a Vexillian diplomat was left to die alone in space. The U.S. horizon cut through the darkness of space, its blue engine glow leaving a faint trail behind it. On the bridge, Captain Eleanor Wright leaned forward in her command chair, studying the star charts displayed on the main screen. "This sector is mostly uncharted, Captain," said Navigator Ryan Peters, his fingers moving across his control panel. "No established trade routes within 3 light years." Eleanor nodded. Her short brown hair caught the light from the overhead panels as she turned to face her science officer. "That's why we're here, Mr. Peters. Exploration is what we do." The Horizon was a mid-sized exploration vessel with a crew of 87. Its mission was to chart new routes through this region, looking for resources and potential colony sites. So far, they had found little of interest. Lieutenant Kyle Mendez sat at the communications station, adjusting his earpiece. His dark eyebrows suddenly pulled together in concentration. "Captain," he said, his voice cutting through the quiet hum of the bridge, "I'm picking up something strange." Eleanor turned her chair toward him. "Define strange, Lieutenant." "A distress signal, but it's using an unusual frequency." Kyle's fingers danced across his panel. "It's weak, almost gone. And it's not using any standard Alliance distress codes." The bridge grew quiet. First Officer Jack Wilson moved to stand behind Kyle, looking at his readings. "Can you pinpoint the location?" Eleanor asked. Kyle nodded. "Yes, ma'am. It's coming from about half a light year off our current course." "Put it on screen." The main viewer shifted, showing a distant point of space. The computer enhanced the image, revealing a small object floating alone in the void. "Some kind of escape pod," Jack said, stroking his beard thoughtfully. "Design doesn't match anything in our database." Science Officer Lisa Patel spoke up from her station. "Captain, I'm running the signal pattern through our xenolinguistic database. It appears to be." Her voice trailed off as she stared at her screen in surprise. "What is it, Officer Patel?" Eleanor asked. "Vexillian, Captain." "The pod appears to be Vexillian in origin." A wave of murmurs swept across the bridge. Everyone knew about the Vexillians, a highly advanced isolationist species that avoided contact with humans. In the few documented encounters, they had shown nothing but disdain for humanity. "Are you certain?" Eleanor asked, standing now. Lisa nodded. "The signal pattern is a 97% match to recorded Vexillian communications." Jack frowned. "Captain, Vexillian ships never come to this sector. And they never travel alone in small craft. Something's not right." Eleanor paced across the bridge, considering their options. Alliance protocol was clear. All distress signals required investigation. But this was complicated. The Vexillians considered humans to be dangerous, primitive creatures, monsters to be avoided. "Life signs?" she asked. Lisa checked her readings. "One life form. Faint. Whoever's in there is running out of time." Kyle spoke up from his station. "Captain, I know the Vexillians want nothing to do with us, but we can't just leave someone to die out there." Eleanor nodded slowly. "I agree, Lieutenant. Mr. Peters, adjust course to intercept that pod." "Dr. Reeves," she said, tapping her communicator, "prepare the medical bay for a possible non-human patient." "A Vexillian patient," came Dr. Samantha Reeves' surprised voice. "Captain, I've only got theoretical data on their physiology." "Then you better review that data quickly, Doctor. We're bringing one aboard in approximately 40 minutes." As the Horizon changed course, Engineer Ben Collins reported from engineering. "Captain, I've prepared Shuttle Bay 2 for the retrieval. We can use the tractor beam to bring the pod in safely." "Good work, Mr. Collins." Eleanor returned to her chair, her expression serious. "All senior staff, be advised. Our guest may not be happy to see us. Vexillians consider humans to be dangerous and primitive. Let's prove them wrong." The Horizon accelerated toward the tiny pod, its powerful engines pushing it forward. Inside that small craft, unknown to the human crew, Lyra drifted in and out of consciousness, unaware that her life was about to change forever. The monsters were coming to save her. Lyra pressed her hand against the cold viewport of the escape pod. Outside, the stars looked distant and uncaring. Her breathing came in short, panicked gasps as she watched her people's ship grow smaller, then vanish completely with a flash of light as it jumped away. They had left her. They had actually left her to die. The escape pod's lights flickered, casting eerie shadows across the cramped space. Lyra's blue-tinted skin appeared almost gray in the dim light. Her large, almond-shaped eyes blinked rapidly as she tried to process what had happened. Emergency power activated. The pod's computer announced in a flat voice. Life support systems at 63% capacity. Estimated survival time: 42 hours. 42 hours, not even 2 full cycles. Lyra sank to the floor, her slender body curling inward. Her ceremonial robes, once a symbol of her status as a junior diplomat, now felt heavy and useless. Distress beacon activated. The computer continued. Warning: no Vexillian outposts detected within range. Of course not. Council Elder Zrath had been very careful about that. He had chosen this empty sector precisely because no one would find her here. Lyra's mind drifted back to the meeting chamber. She could still see the disgust in Zrath's 4 eyes when she had presented her report. Her suggestion that the Vexillian conclave consider opening diplomatic channels with humans had been met with horror. They are monsters, Zrath had declared, his voice echoing in the chamber. Unpredictable, emotional, violent creatures who spread through the galaxy like a disease. And you, Lyra, suggest we speak with them. The other council members had murmured their agreement. Humans were considered the lowest form of intelligent life. Everyone knew that. Everyone except Lyra, who had dared to question the ancient teachings. Her research had suggested something different. Humans were adaptable. They formed alliances with many species. They survived where others perished. Yes, they were emotional, but perhaps that was a strength, not a weakness. Sharing these thoughts had been her mistake. After the meeting, Zrath had approached her with false kindness. He offered her a special assignment, a chance to redeem herself. She would travel with him on his diplomatic vessel to meet with allies in a nearby system. Lyra had been suspicious but had no choice. Refusing would have meant immediate demotion. She hadn't expected betrayal quite this complete. During the journey, while she slept, someone had entered her quarters. When she awoke, Zrath stood over her with 2 security officers. "Your genetic scan results are most disturbing," he had said, holding up a data tablet. "Traces of contamination in your bloodline. You are not pure Vexillian." Lyra had protested, but they dragged her to the escape pod bay. Zrath's final words still rang in her ears. "Consider this mercy. A quick death in space is better than what awaits impure bloodlines on our homeworld." Now, trapped in the slowly failing pod, Lyra checked the emergency supplies. 1 small water container, a nutrient pack designed to last 3 days, a basic medical kit. Not that any of it mattered. With no way to steer the pod and no planet within reach, these supplies would only prolong her suffering. She tried the communication system again. Nothing but static. Lyra closed her eyes. She had studied history. She knew that in the ancient days, her people had abandoned their weak in the wilderness to die. But she had believed those days were long past. How wrong she had been. Hours passed. The pod grew colder as power systems struggled to maintain life support. Lyra wrapped her robes tighter around herself and watched the unfamiliar stars through the viewport. She would die here, alone, forgotten. All because she had suggested that perhaps humans weren't the monsters everyone believed them to be. The bitter irony was not lost on her. Her last thoughts before exhaustion took her were simple. Who were the real monsters here?